Welcome back. And so national security is still very much in our line of vision. And of course, this comes on the heels of Congressman Riley Moore's interaction with the National Security Advisor yesterday, when he said that if the resolutions reached following that very critical conversation are implemented, then indeed Nigeria is sure to overcome a lot of her security concerns. There's also the foiled coup attempt in Benin Republic, of course, which Nigeria played a very critical role in and is making a boast of. And so, what is responsible also for the coup contagion, particularly in the Sahelian region in West Africa? Let's have this conversation. Perhaps they're all related. And joining us on the program for this particular one is two gentlemen. Mr. Oluseyi Adeyemo is a researcher and a global affairs analyst. He's right here in our Lagos studio. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And we also have Mr. Victor Ohai, who wears many hats. Of course, is a filmmaker and, of course, is also a global affairs analyst. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start from the foiled coup in Benin Republic. Of course, it was one Nigerian, I believe Yayi, who described Benin Republic as Nigeria's 37th state, because of proximity and shared historical relations and values. And so, comparatively, because the ADC is challenging the federal government now in its response to Benin Republic, comparatively, when you look at the response of the federal government to Benin Republic and what transpired, during the Hulabalo following the Niger coup, how would you assess Nigeria's military strength and indeed its leadership role in intervening in the coup contagion in West Africa? I'll start with you, Mr. Ohai.
Okay, so thank you very much. It was Buni Yaya, I believe, the former president of Benin, who made that statement about being Nigeria's 37th. He was a man who was, I don't know, he made no pretense about, the fact that Nigeria was the dominant superpower at the time. And you recall that was when, under the leadership of President Obasanjo. Now, coming to the coup and what's happening, particularly what has transpired in the Sahelian region, and indeed for the rest in some parts of Africa, what we have, the tendency, what is happening is almost like a circle. You recall that at independence, it was democracy all the way through. And then what happened was that the Democrats, so-called, started becoming dictators, and started abusing power. And so there were agitation among, the populace in the various countries. And then one after the other, military coups started taking place. After a point in time, we decided, okay, no more military coups. Let's come back to what the norm is, which is democracy. And then, they returned to power across the continent as well. And then another round of abuse. Abuse in the sense that you had people, look at what's happening in Tanzania, where, the president there is sitting tight and, mostly in opposition. And so that is another form of dictatorship, not democracy. Uganda, Cameroon, and so many other countries where the opposition have no say whatsoever. And so the question is, so what then is the difference? What is democracy if the voice of the people doesn't matter or does not matter? And so it is agitation because the military cannot come, and I dare say will not succeed in any coup if they don't have the backing of the people, which is why Niger didn't succeed, because the people were tired, obviously. When Nigeria wanted to, apart from the fact that Nigerians are at least 54% Hausas, more than 54% speak Hausa language, and so, and we have, there's so much, not just historical, but filial ties between Nigerians in northern Nigeria and Niger. And so there was this outcry that, no, don't go in there, you go there, and all that were interfering in their affairs. So, but what has happened in this particular case is that, one, we acted swiftly, no notice, there was not enough time for the coupists, but you will also recall that on ground, the Beninois came out and were shouting, down with the regime, which means they were happy about what was happening because Talon himself was no better than any other dictator in the other countries. And if you left him, he would probably be there for as long. But he did what other people didn't do. He quickly called on Big Brother, Nigeria, to come and intervene. And so that's why we were able to go in there and do what we did. But the proprietary of, or otherwise of that, legally and otherwise, that may be a further discussion. I'll just leave it at this point.
All right.
Let's bring in Mr. Ademo. I'm happy you mentioned it because I think that sometimes we talk about the effects, cause and effects here. And as you've mentioned, the effect that, look, when these coups happen, for some reason, the people are happy, even though they know it's not the best option. They just want any other thing apart from whoever it is they want out of the system. So isn't it time for us to begin to interrogate the causes? Now, some of us have been a fan of more of HDI rather than GDP. GDP metrics can be very deceptive. Like now, the government is saying our foreign reserve is good, our GDP is growing, and then the lived-in experience is another conversation altogether. So where should we be navigating this conversation, Mr. Ademo?
The truth of the matter is, I am, like you, believe that over time we would always say, oh, we just want the people on seats to just leave, and whoever comes is better than that other person. And experience and history have shown that even when they come in, they're probably worse off. One, they're not properly prepared for the role because they're military and they are not trained for governance. And so at the end of the day, as Africans as we are, they also would go in and look out for themselves, build their own empire, and at the end of the day, the people would always be the one that will bear the brunt at the end of the day. So the only indices is how are the people faring? Do we have a fair dealing? Is the country truly developing? Because again, people will tell you, oh, Practice Talon is doing well as regards building infrastructure and all of that. And I've always asked this question, when you say you're building infrastructure and the people are languishing under poverty, you begin to wonder, what infrastructure are you really building? And look, let's be realistic. You can't talk down to me that I am well if I am not well. And if I'm well, I am well. So you saying this is what you're doing and the people are not feeling it directly obviously means that you're really not doing what you ought to be doing. Because you can then do a fast and say, oh, we're building this road, or we're building that, we're building that. Does it trickle down to how the people are faring? So those are the reasons why immediately the coup happened. As usual, the people came out and start to say, oh, we don't want the previous government anyways, let him leave the government. But at the end of the day, we all know that when we all settle down into the new regime, would naturally want to start, them to behave well. And unfortunately, history has shown that they don't do as well or better than those they house. So it's like he rightly described when he started, it's been a circle as it were, where the ones who come give us a lot of promise, tell us they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and every time they come in, at least up to this extent, what we're found out is whether they're in khaki, they're military, or they're Democrats, as they describe themselves, we are somewhat getting the same result from them as it were.
I'd like us to look a bit more about the security implications of whatever is happening, because sometime in the middle of the year, there was some, reported unrest in terms of banditry on the border with Benin Republic as well. And, the ADC is asking very critical questions here of the federal government. If, you could do that for Benin Republic, Nigerians at home are not safe. So perhaps we should be asking the same question as well about this response, to the security challenge on, in the Sahel region. Either it's Burkina Faso or it's Mali. There seems to be a very present challenge of terrorism and banditry. Mr. Okai, I'd like you to answer that. And relatedly, compared to Nigeria's response to Niger, was Benin Republic easy, to intervene in? Because we didn't see the same success in terms of military action in the Niger case. Mr. Ohai.
Okay, so I just want to add something to what he said and then take on your questions. The idea behind saying that military people are not prepared, nobody is prepared for governance. If you win election, you take power. And if you check very well, in America, almost everybody has served in the military. Okay? Because that is the nature. The NYC is like military service. And so that, I think it's more a function of the system in place. That's why you have checks and balances in government or in a democracy. But when the institutions collapse, then obviously this is what you get. Now, the first part of your question, or the second part, and then you remind me about the first part again, I just forgot that. But the second part is about the response in Niger compared to Benin. Was it easy and all that? Okay, so Nigeria really wanted to go to Niger. And in any case, we have military formations along those borders. So, and even the Air Force is even closer, to what do you call it now? Niger. Because Kaduna is up north, and that's where, in Benin as well, we have an Air Force base there and all that. So we have our Air Force pretty much close. We could have, it's just a matter of minutes or under an hour, and they are already there. But the facts on ground in the case of Niger, for instance, is that the people welcomed it. And so you cannot intervene. It's a sovereign country. That is what democracy is. What do the people want?
But the people welcomed that of Benin Republic
They
also.
did, but there was no time to respond. What we did was that, and what made the case of Niger different was the fact that I said we had not just what do you call it now, historical affiliation with them, our brothers in the north, but they're also filial. It might surprise you to know that there are Nigerians who are already contesting elections in Nigeria, and Nigerians who are, who have families in government in Niger. It's an open secret. It's not anything to be hidden. And so when you go to attack, it's like, say, look, you want to come and kill our people? So there was resistance also from the north. So that didn't make it easy. Plus, the response time, there was contemplation. This time, there was no contemplation. There was a non-verbal, instant action, and then what you had was, the next thing, while the coup plotters were still in the station, in the broadcast, with the national broadcast station, and in the barracks where they had taken charge, the Air Force was already on ground. And then the Nigerian army moved the military from the north, the areas that are, bordering Benin, particularly, especially in northern Nigeria there, to move in immediately, So it was swift, it was clinical, and there was nothing. They never saw it coming. The Benin one never saw it coming. That's a surprise element. And that brings me to what I think the first question is, which is the issue of ADC and the rest. You wonder, and I want to refer to us to the immediate past defense minister who said, no, you can't attack Boko Haram or the bandits in the north because the Air Force cannot, because bombs cannot penetrate Sambisa. I think that was nonsensical as far as I'm concerned. Are you saying that the bombs cannot go through trees and all that? That argument was absurd, So it just tells you that, more of what you see is not. We have heard from our armed forces, even the ordinary soldiers, that if you want insecurity to end within 48, maybe even 24 hours, it is possible. That they have the capability, they have the might, they have all it takes. They've been on the ground. They have weighed themselves against. It's like two football teams say, look, we'll beat these guys. They're no. You understand what I'm saying? But if they have a referee to contend with, there's very little that they can do. And so they have repeatedly told us. And so you ask yourself, so it's one of several things. The willingness to end it, okay? And then, the willingness to end it really. Okay. I think, sorry, let me just say this. Corruption is at the bane. If we have time, we'll talk about it. Because obviously there are people who are benefiting from these things being protracted.
Right. So let's bring in Ms. Adebo. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of time. Just as the conversation just got started, we're told to wrap up. So let's talk about the interplay of geopolitics around all of this. And the bad habit of our leaders. in sit-tight mentality. Never in Cameroon has elected in 90 whatever. A very shameful situation we found ourselves. In fact, the issue around what was that called, Guinea-Bissau? It was the president that announced the coup.
Announced it, yeah.
So help us understand how we can manage this situation about the interplay of geopolitics. When we talk about geopolitics, sometimes I don't like to blame the people that are making it happen. How we respond is another. Is more. How should we respond to the interplay of geopolitics in the midst of all of this, in cahoots with elements that we know that are leaders of our continent?
I think I agree that we should look at the way we react, because I think we have more control over that than the way they react, because it seems and it's clear that they're set in their ways, that we will continue to have, different versions of the way they are right now across Africa, because unfortunately, I mean, when we look at the way they behave, sometimes you just wonder what exactly is wrong with them as our leaders. So we, the people, I think it's important that we are very clear of who we vote in, because I believe that we've seen an example of the fact that if we, the people, are willing, we can really change the situation. For instance, what happened in Lagos, I mean, during the last election, the OB thing, it was like Lagos was going to be taken if we had tried more, away from the party that all of us had thought that could never be voted out. And for whatever reason, in the middle of the road or towards the end of the road, we sort of cowed in, and at the end of the day, we lost it. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is we have the power as a people, because clearly we are exposed, we have knowledge, we felt the pain over and over again, and we obviously know what is right from wrong. So why are we not taking it to the point of saying, look, we don't want you people, we don't want this kind of people, these are the kind of people we want? I believe that it is possible. I believe that as a people we need to come together. And one thing that people have said over and over again that I disagree with is, oh, it is only us in the South that see things in this particular way. I disagree. I believe that we have not done well in recruiting people from the north who also think like us, because there are a lot of Nigerians across Nigeria who think like this, who feel the need for a proper change. And so we need to find a way of sort of making sure we have them on our side and have one body, because I think it is very, very wrong on our part to feel that, oh, the only people who think the way we think are the Southerners, maybe from the East Nigeria or from Southwest Nigeria. It's not true. There are Northerners who also feel and are tired of the way things have been over time. The thing we need to do right now is to find a way of knowing them, identifying them, and all of us coming together to truly take these people out, because we can't continue to have things the way they are right now, because we will never have another result with the same arrangement.
And that's as candid can get, when you consider the dynamics of the consequences of politics, the paradox of electing, democratically elected officials, and then you have the bullets change it, and in some countries they welcome the change of bullets, so which way Africa, benevolent dictator or the democratically elected government that doesn't deliver? It's clearly an ongoing conversation, but we must anchor at this point. And thank you very much, gentlemen. We've been talking with Mr. Seyi Adeyemo, researcher and global affairs analyst, and of course, Mr. Victor Ohai, a film producer and global affairs analyst as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, it will be time to talk politics. Is the PDP still the most vibrant opposition in Nigeria? We'll have answers to that question after this time out. Join us again.